Hello, friends. Debbie Bird Smith here. Um, Welcome to In His Will, and thank you for joining me. This month, we've been talking about our Blessed Mother. It is the month of May, and so tonight we're going to once again go into the Virgin Mary and the Kingdom of the Divine Will, because we know that Mary came to see her blessed, to see Louisa. She sat on her bed every day for 30 days, teaching her. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit more tonight. And I chose a day to read that I wanted to kind of talk about tonight, because I just felt like it was a really good, a good overall reading. And I also wanted to tell you that if you would like to see a series on this particular book, the whole book, and we would read, do every single day. Um, I'd be happy to do that. If anybody is interested in that, just let me know in the comments, or anything else that you'd like to see on the channel. I want to put out what you have questions about and what you'd like to learn about, and uh, so that you can, we can learn together and talk about these things, and hopefully, answer questions or deep dive into some things. Also, coming up this week, possibly next week, but hopefully this week, I'm going to be coming out with another series on the catechism. We've talked about this before. I also uh, have heard from so many people, particularly kind of cradle Catholics, I think more than converts, that they don't really know the catechism like they wish that they would. And I know this is very basic stuff, but I think we need this very basic stuff, especially in the times that we're in, when we see kind of these other things encroaching. And what does this mean? What are the fundamentals? What are the things that make the Catholic Church the Catholic Church? So we have a wonderful catechism, and it teaches so much about prayer, about the sacraments, about living the Catholic life. And so I want to do something on that. So let me know if you're interested in that also in the comments, and I'll be sure to give you updates on that on the channel. Um, so, um, what I'm showing tonight is from day 17 of the Blessed Virgin Mary, the Book of Heaven in the Kingdom of the Divine Will. And if you have read any of this or are familiar with any of it, you know that at the beginning of the book, um, she talks about being in the temple. Now, Mary was taken to the temple when she was a very young child, 2 or 3 years old. I think she was 3 years old. And Joachim and Anne took her to the temple, and basically she was raised in the temple. That was, I think, was a fairly not unusual practice for families to give their daughters to the temple, to be raised in the temple to learn their faith. Just like they sent little boys to, a special school, Hebrew school, whatever. They sent little girls to the temple. And so this is where Mary started her life. And so she learned and grew holy. Of course, we know that she was born without original sin, and she also lived in the divine will. So her will was constantly, always in communion with the divine will, and she never did anything outside the divine will. So we're going to start because it says this is actually when Mary leaves the temple. As she got older, and she came to live outside the temple. Um, Hello, everybody. Hi, Blinky. Hi, Debbie. We've got some people coming in and coming into the chat. Please feel free to come into the chat and say hello or ask a question, whatever you like. Okay, so this is the lesson that the Blessed Mother gave to Louisa on this particular day, the 17th day that she visited. She said, "Be of good cheer, my child. Have courage and trust in your mother with the ironclad resolution never to give life to your will. Oh, how I would love to hear from your lips, my mother, my will is finished, for the divine fiat has established in me its complete reign. These are the weapons that make your own will continually die and win over the heart of your mother, who uses all of her loving and maternal stratagems to have her child live in her kingdom. For you, it will be a sweet death that gives you true life. And for me, it will be the most beautiful victory I will have achieved in the kingdom of the divine will. Therefore, have courage and place your trust in me. For distrust is of the cowardly, of those who are not really committed to obtaining victory, and of those who are never equipped with the proper weapons. For without weapons, one cannot obtain victory, but will remain always inconstant and vacillating in their effort to accomplish anything good. I want to stop there for just a second. Going back to what I just said about our catechism and reading the divine will, reading the book of heaven, prayer, our prayer life, our commitment to living in the divine will. These are our weapons. And our mother is telling us, you have to be equipped. You need to be equipped to fight this battle. And the battle has become very clear to us. In so many years, we went along. I was a young woman in the 70s, and we had the Vietnam War, we had protests, we had all kinds of things going on. And we were talking the other day, I was talking to someone the other day, my age, and I was saying, it looks like a cakewalk compared to what's going on here in some ways. Of course, we lost a lot of people in the Vietnam War, and caused a lot of damage. War is hell. And that is true. War is hell. But she says, you have to be equipped with the proper weapons. And so she's teaching us what are the weapons that we have to use in order to live in his will and in order to have victory over the evil that's coming at us every single day. So she said, "Now, my child, listen closely to what your tender mother wishes to tell you. I continued my life in the temple while making little flights up to my heavenly homeland. Our Blessed Mother was taken up to heaven. She had communion with God. She was in this special this sort of special place. And I kind of take this to mean just like Louisa had visitations, that maybe Mary had visitations, and Mary was taken. She said, I possess the rightful claims of God's daughter to make my little visits to my divine family in heaven, which belong to me more than the rightful claims of a father over his household on earth. But I was so surprised when in one of these visits, the divine persons, the Trinity, revealed to me that it was their will for me to leave the temple. First, to unite myself in the bond of marriage, according to the manner of those times, to a holy man named Joseph, and second, to withdraw together with him and live in the house of Nazareth. And she wasn't living in Nazareth. She thought she was going to be in the temple forever. She thought that she was going to be a consecrated virgin, consecrated to God, and live this kind of cloistered holy life. And God said, no, 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 that's not what I have planned for you. I'm gonna pull you out of the temple, and you're going to marry this guy called Joseph. Now, can you imagine what trust this must have taken for Mary? She thought she had it all figured out. She knew who she was, where she was, what was going on, and God said, "No, no, no, that's not it." Hi, Emily. She said, "No, no, no, that's not it." She said, "My child, at this stage in my life, it was apparent that God wished to truly test my will, for I had never loved anyone in the world since the divine will extended itself throughout my entire being. My human will never did so much as one act of its own. Thus, the seed of human love was foreign to me. How could I love a man in the human order, even if he was a great saint? It is true that I love everyone, and that my love for all was so great that my motherly love kept all souls inscribed one by one with indelible characters of fire in my maternal heart. But all of this was completely in divine order. Compared to divine love, human love may be called a shadow, a pale reflection, and a tidy atom of divine love. So she's like, whoa, wait a minute. I don't even know how to do this. I don't even know what human love is. My focus has been completely, totally submersed in you. I've been separated from people. My focus, my life has been you. Now you're going to take me out of here and you're going to put me with a man, and I don't even know what to do. So she said, so my child, what seemed to be a test of my human will from God and what appeared foreign to my holiness of life was admirably used by God to fulfill his designs and concede to me the grace for which I so much longed in order for the word to descend to earth. In St. Joseph, God provided me a safeguard to defend me before the community in light of my virgin birth and assist me so that no one should speak against me concerning my integrity. St. Joseph was to be the cooperator and the guardian who would take care of what little there was of human need, and he was the reflection of God's heavenly fatherhood under whom our little heavenly family on earth would be formed. So, despite my surprise, I immediately said, Fiat, let it be done, knowing that the divine will would neither disappoint me nor compromise my holiness. Oh, had I acted under the guise of not wanting to know man and according to my human will, I would have sent to ruin God's plan of the divine word coming to earth. So Mary is saying, look, this was not in the picture for me. I wasn't planning on this. I didn't see this coming. I don't know how to love a human, much less love a man. You're throwing me out here into foreign territory. But she says, so my child would seem to be a test of my human will from God. Bear in mind, I think what I said last week. We are not to test God. It says, do not test the Lord your God. But no doubt, he's going to test us. Never does it say that it doesn't say anywhere he's not going to test us. He's absolutely going to test us. And this was a test for Mary. Now, God is omnipotent. He knows everything. He knew that she would give her fiat, but she had to realize that this was a choice that she was making because she had never used her human will. And she said, if I did use my human will, I would have said, no way. No. I don't want this. I don't want this at all. You're going to have to rethink this, God. This is not, this is not my plan. But she is committed and completely immersed. She lived totally in the divine will. And so whatever God brought before her, she gave her fiat. Now, she didn't understand at this point. She didn't know. I mean, she wasn't pregnant. The angel hadn't come. She didn't know what was going on. She said, therefore, it is not the diversity of states that frustrate sanctity. By not doing the divine will and failing to fulfill one's duty in the state to which God calls a soul. All states in life are holy, including marriage, provided that one does the divine will and faithfully fulfills the duties of their state in life. Now, I want to read a little footnote that's put in here because um, uh, Mary, throughout her teaching here, is going to show us that the divine will is meant for all states in life. It's not just for the holy, it's not just for the cloistered, it's not just for the priests, it's not just for the nuns, it's not just for the monks. It's for everyone, no matter what your state of life is. And it says Mary's lesson on all states in life being holy is bolstered by St. Francis de Sales, who states the following. This is from Francis de Sales' writings, Introduction to the Devout Life, which I highly recommend. If you haven't read that, read it. It's a great, very good, solid book on leading a devout life. So Francis de Sales says, God commanded the plants at creation to bear fruit, each according to its kind. Similarly, he commanded Christians, the living plants of the church, to produce the fruits of devotion according to each one's ability and occupation. Devotion is to be practiced differently by the workman, the servant, the ruler, the widow, the young girl, and the wife. Even more than this, the practice of devotion has to be adapted to the strength, life situation, and duties of each individual. Do you think that it is suitable for a bishop to desire to live the life of a hermit like a Carthusian monk? If people with a family were to want to be like the Capuchins, not acquiring any property, if a workman spent a great deal of time in church, like the member of a religious order, and if a religious was always subject to being disturbed in all sorts of ways for the service of his neighbor, like a bishop, would not such a devotion be ridiculous, disorderly, and intolerable? Our state of life is very, very important to how we live out the divine will. And so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what our state of life is. We have to adjust and conform our life around that state. I always think of, I think it was, I want to say it was Mary Taiji, but I could be wrong, um, who bishops sought her counsel. She had uh, was very wise and had visions. She was, they would come to her, and she had a whole bunch of kids. I don't remember, maybe 6 children. I don't know. She had kids, and she would sit the bishops down in the hallway and make them wait and say, "Wait, I have to feed my kids. It's dinner time. It's lunchtime. I have to feed my kids." Her state of life as a mother and a wife was her primary state of life. This is what she did. This is what God had called her to. And she knew that this was actually her first responsibility. The bishops had their first responsibility. Uh, she had her first responsibility, and she was more than happy to help and more than happy to serve. But she knew what her primary role was. And this is something that we have to, this is what good would it do for, if you're a workman, if you go spend it all day in church? That doesn't get the plants planted, it doesn't get the buildings built, it doesn't get things done. But you have to make the divine will conform to your way of life. So she goes on to say, and yet most souls are indolent and lazy, and not only do they not become saints, but they make of their own state in life either a purgatory or a hell. So, as I learned that I was to leave the temple, I did not say a word to anyone, but I waited for God Himself to arrange the external circumstances in such a way that His adorable will would be fulfilled, and this indeed happened. The superiors of the temple called me and let me know that it was their will and also the custom of those times that I prepare myself for marriage. I accepted. Miraculously, among the many possible bridegrooms, the choice fell upon Saint Joseph. Thus the marriage was established, and I departed from the temple. So I entreat you, child of my heart, if you wish God's divine designs to be accomplished in you in all circumstances of life, take to heart doing solely the divine will. So this choice even was this was not even a choice that she had to make for herself in any way. The divine will let her know, you're leaving the temple and you're going to be married. And she's like, really? Hi, Eileen. Really? How's that going to happen? To who? What is, I don't even understand. The temple, the superiors of the temple chose her husband. They chose Joseph. Joseph was a good, holy man known in this community. And they said, he's the one. Certainly the Holy Spirit inspired them to choose the right man for Mary. This is why, one of the reasons why, and it's a huge example of why when we follow these inspirations, good things happen. I always say that we need to follow these inspirations. If we have an inspiration to do something, if we have an inspiration to call someone or to go visit someone or to um, pray or to do something, we get these inspirations, these things that kind of pop in our heads sometimes. And these are inspirations, if we're living in the divine will, particularly, these are inspirations from God. These are graces that He's sending us, inspirations He's sending us, and saying, this is this little clue here, what I want you to do. And we need to, excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. We need to respond to these inspirations because these inspirations are graces. They're they're road signs of something that we need to do for God. They have some kind of importance that God is trying to advance. So we need to listen to these inspirations. We need to respond to these inspirations. And many times we don't. Um, as Mary says, we're lazy, we're indolent. Maybe we have this inspiration to call someone we haven't talked to in a while, and we're like, nah, I don't want to do that today. Maybe I'll do that another day. Well, maybe another day is going to be too late, or maybe that day is the day that you're going to say something that inspires that person for something else, something they need to hear from you, even if it's just a friendly hello. How are you? We don't know. We don't know what God knows, but we need to trust that God sends us these inspirations for a very good reason. Mary put all of her eggs in her basket of the divine will. And this is what God is calling us to do. He's calling us to completely surrender our lives in the divine will. And the more we do it, the more we cooperate with God in living in the divine will and allowing Him, His will, to work through us. The more obvious it becomes that leads to a more peaceful, and in many ways, a more productive life in terms of holiness. The book of heaven says this is a call to the return of order. Return of order. We're extremely disordered. Um, I always think back, and this is one of the things that I like to meditate on, really, is the life of Mary that she must have lived in Nazareth with Joseph and Jesus, and the duties that she had, which were, housewife duties. But in those times, she had to go to the well to get the water. It just didn't come out of a spigot. She had to go get the water. She had to make the bread. She had to grind the wheat. She had to make the clothes. She had to grow the vegetables. Joseph worked in a shop, whether it was masonry or carpentry or whatever it was that he did to make money to buy the things that they needed in order to live, but they lived a very poor and simple life. Because unless you were like, somebody really, really special, everyone was poor. That's what my parents always said about in the Depression, when we had the Great Depression. Everybody was poor. Nobody felt bad about, wearing patched clothes or not being able to do some of the things that there was no money and nobody had any money. And I kind of envision this in many ways in Nazareth, particularly probably where Mary and Joseph lived, is very, humble, simple um, lives. And I like to meditate on that because we want things to be easy. And many times we complain because it's not easy. God, I prayed, and I asked for help. I don't see any help coming. Where's the help? Did you hear me? Is anybody there? Sometimes we don't get the answer that we want. Sometimes we don't get the help that we're seeking. But God is going to test us. God will test us. So, do you love me for what I give? Or do you love me because of who I am? Do you love me because I am love? Can you at least love me with my own love? Because when we're living in the divine will, that's exactly what we're doing. God is filling us with his own love. This is what brings us peace. Is living life loving in God's own love, in God's own way, under his inspiration, guidance. This is what he intended for us. He put us in a garden. I'm a gardener. I like to garden, and I kind of like to be out there with my plants, and I particularly this time of year. Although in Florida it's like, oh wow, May, it's like July most other places. Um, he put us in a garden. He put Adam and Eve in a garden. He said, "This is the way I want your life to be. I want it to be blessed. Look, I gave you a garden. I gave you animals. I gave you everything. I gave you everything beautiful. But you had to have it your way. And when we have to have it our way, that's when it gets kind of messed up." So the soul says to the Blessed Mother, this is Louisa, "Heavenly Queen, I, your child, entrust myself to you. With my trust, I wish to wound your heart. And may this wound in your maternal heart always say, Fiat, fiat, fiat. Such is your little child's incessant request." And each day in this book of heaven, the Virgin Mary and the Kingdom of Heaven, it gives you an aspiration. It gives you something to sort of meditate on and concentrate on for that day. And it says, "Today, to honor me, come unto my lap and recite 15 glorias to thank God for all the graces He has granted me up until the 15th year of my life, and especially for having given me the company of so holy a man as Saint Joseph." So this is sort of indicating to us that she was 15. When she married Joseph, she was 15. The exclamation is, "Powerful Queen, grant me the weapons to wage war against my own will, so that I may allow myself to be won over by the will of God." Now, let's talk about weapons for a minute. What are the weapons that we need in order to live in the divine will? Well, first off, we need willingness. We need willingness. Willingness to commit ourselves to the divine will. We need a commitment. Jesus said, "If you're lukewarm, I'm going to spit you out of my mouth." And I have always, for a long time now, I've sort of used this characterization of pick a lane. You have to pick a lane. You can't run down the middle fence anymore. That is not going to cut it. The right and the wrong, the good and the bad, the light and the dark is becoming more and more obvious all the time. There's no middle ground. We see that in our culture. We see that around the world. There's no middle ground. Who's moderate? You can't afford to be moderate anymore in anything. And you certainly can't afford to be moderate in your faith. We need to be warriors. We're fighting a battle. And the divine will is the greatest gift that we could possibly be given. Because in the divine will is Jesus who's fighting the battle. It is Jesus who's calling the shots, not us. Now, it doesn't often feel like it. I know there's been many, 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 many times that I've thought, this isn't doing anything. What is this doing? I'm offering things in the divine will. I don't feel anything. I don't feel anything. We don't need to feel anything. We need to trust. We need to trust that Jesus says it's so, it's so. I always say, this is why the divine mercy came at the same time as the divine will. This trust is very important. Jesus, I trust in you. Jesus, I trust in what you're telling me. Jesus, I trust in what you're asking me to do. And so we need to trust that whatever it is we're doing in the divine will, and we're offering it, we're doing it in the divine will, is having an effect. We may not feel it or see it, but it's not for us, it's for others. God takes that and he uses those graces for other people to save souls. And what happens to us? What happens to us is as we continually continue to live in the divine will, slowly, methodically, these things that get in our way, that are our own will, that we hang on to because, this is our will. We're strong willed. We don't even realize how strong willed we are. And we hang on to these things. Well, I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to do it this way. Really, does it me doing it this really make that big of a difference? I don't think so. I think I'll just keep doing it my way. As we remove those things, as we continually give our will over and give ourselves to the divine will, these things that trip us up, it's really strange. um, Maybe it's a resentment that you have, or maybe it's a fear that you have, or maybe it's a defect, a shortcoming that you have, that you do this certain thing. Maybe you get impatient with a waiter, or maybe you get angry in traffic, or maybe whatever it is. We all have our things. There may be a person you work with that really irritates you. That's always fun. You have to go to work every day with somebody who just gets on your nerve. But as we keep doing this, and we keep surrendering our will, we keep surrendering these things, we keep offering everything in the divine will, we find that these things that are tripping us up in our own will, like if we get mad in traffic and we're yelling or we're honking or we're doing whatever, getting upset, that's our will. That's our own will. I would say, I can tolerate a lot of things. I can't tolerate stupid. And you can't fix stupid. Well, everybody's not stupid. Everybody's just trying to live their life like I'm trying to live my life. Everything happens in God's permissive will, and it's always for our good. And one of the things that it does when we have these little irritations, or we have these things that we fight against, that we have trouble letting go of, changing, surrendering, he's chipping away. The divine will is chipping away so subtly that we may not even notice it. And then you get around that person that irritates you so much that you only see a few times a year, they don't bother you. That person at work that just, it's like nails on a chalkboard. You're finding, they don't bother you so much. Whatever, you know, rattle on. It becomes not an irritant. Things that used to make you angry or make you anxious, or that you couldn't resist, little sinful things. You know, maybe you shouldn't be, shopping on a Sunday, or, little things that we do, they go away. They go away. And maybe we're working on them, but many times, we know that they're there, we pray about them or whatever, but then just one day you realize, oh, it's gone. I don't feel that way about that person anymore. That resentment is gone. That anger is gone. That anxiety is gone. What happened? It happened because you're surrendering your own will. And your own will becomes like a barrier to these things and keeps them entrapped in your soul. We hang on to them. We're not willing to surrender them. We don't realize the damage that they're doing. We don't necessarily want them because maybe they can be embarrassing or be, uncomfortable at times, but we still do it. We still hang on to it. But as we surrender our will and we give it to Jesus, live Jesus's will, our soul changes, our mind changes. We say the prevenient act in the morning, and please say the prevenient act in the morning. It's very difficult, nay impossible, to commit every act to the divine will all day long, consciously. You'll be trucking along in your day and you're like, oh man, I've been doing all this stuff and I didn't offer anything in the divine will. Offer it in the morning. Jesus says in the writings, even if you fail at this, even if you didn't offer an act or don't, Louisa one day realized that she hadn't offered anything in the divine will all day. Louisa. She was very upset. And Jesus said, you know what? I see your heart. I see your intention. I see your goodwill. He calls it our goodwill. He knows when we have goodwill. And sometimes he has acts that he wants us to do in the divine will, and we forget or we're neglectful or whatever, and he'll do it. He says in the writings, I'll do it for you, and I'll give you the credit because I know your good heart. What more can we ask of our God? It's like a parent. It tells your little 3-year-old, go in there and clean up your room. And the little 3-year-olds, they're distracted and they're playing with their toys and they might do a little something every, couple minutes or something, whatever. And you go in and clean it up with them. And then you say, oh my goodness, what a good job you did cleaning up your room. Let's show Daddy how you cleaned up your room when he comes home. Good job. And you did 99% of it. But you want to encourage your child. You don't want them to be discouraged. Jesus says, don't be discouraged. I know that your human will has dominated you forever, for all of your years. And it's not going to be that easy to let it go. You'll just wake up one day and say, okay, I'm not going to deal with my will anymore. I'm not going to live in my will anymore. The only person that happened to was Mary. And of course, Jesus. But, with Jesus, we say, well, he was God, he's God. He had a one-up on us. And yes, in a way, Mary had a one-up on us as well. She was created to live in the divine will. Well, guess what? Man was created to live in the divine will. He was created to love God and to live under his mantle of protection and love. But love isn't love if it's not freely given. If it's forced, it's not love. So he gave us free will. So, well, if I make you love me, if I force you to love me, if I program you to love me, what good is that? That's not returning my love. I want my love returned to me. I want you to love me. I want you to just, only obey me. I want you to love me. But I need you to obey me so that you can have the good things I want to give you. It's all about love. It's just all about love. So, as we say our rosaries, as we carry on in our devotions, and as we read the divine will, one of the things that really helps me when I'm reading, and Jesus is talking to Louisa, and he's saying things to Louisa. I like to transform that in a way and realize that he's saying these things to me. He's saying these things to me. He may have said them to Louisa for Louisa to write down, but he said those things for me. We are called. We're called to this. We're called to the divine will. We're chosen in the divine will. Make no mistake, you were chosen. And every single thing that's happened in your life has molded you for this particular mission. And I believe that. I believe that. I see it. You know, I'm older than all of you. I've had a lot of years on me. I got a lot of years on me, a lot of miles on me. A lot of things have happened. A lot of bad things have happened. A lot of painful things have happened. A lot of suffering has happened. Yes, there's been joy. Certainly. Certainly there's been joy. But there's also been trials and challenges and times when I was like, really? Really? It has to be this way? Come on, God. You know, I would get mad at God. Oh my goodness. There were times when I literally shook my fist at God. I was so mad. He was molding me. He was teaching me. He was training me. He was showing me all the defects that we can have. He gave me a lot of them. He made me overcome a lot of them. He showed me suffering. He showed me hardship. He showed me heartache. And he showed me peace. This is, you know, this is what I always say. This is the benchmark of living in the divine will is peace. I have peace. I have enormous peace. It's incredible to me, the peace that I have. I've lived with depression and anxiety and all kinds of things all my life. Not anymore. I can't say that I never feel anxious or I never feel, you know, kind of, you know, but comparatively, it's all gone. Some of you know that I've been ill, and for about a month, I've been, you know, I'm really coming out of it now. But God taught me so many lessons in that, and maybe I'll talk about that someday. But He taught me so many lessons in that. And I gave my fiat. I didn't fight it. I didn't get mad about it. I didn't get upset about it. It certainly was the worst run of COVID that I've ever had. I've had COVID several times now. It was the worst. It was the most difficult, most uncomfortable. But I put it over in the divine will because I knew that it was happening for a purpose, that God was saying something to me in this. And so my goal was to open my heart and open my mind to what are you telling me, Lord? What are you teaching me? And He did. He did show me. When we put these blocks out of our way, God will show us amazing things. He will teach us amazing things, and He will give you amazing peace. But you have to commit. You know, you have to commit. None of us are going to do this perfectly. Certainly, I don't do it perfectly. And please, I don't claim to be. You may hear weird, crazy things come out of my mouth, but I can tell you that a lot of people, they give me a lot of compliments, and it's really wonderful to hear all of this, you know. But I need you to know that this is all the Holy Spirit. It's not me. I pray, say, God, you give me the words. And he does. Because this is what he's been preparing me for all this time. And he's preparing you for something wonderful. He's truly preparing you for something wonderful. Don't get all upset about all this stuff that's going on. Don't get all crazy about, oh my God, the world's going to blow up. What's going to happen is going to happen. God has sent us the divine will to save people, to change people. God can do anything. Let's not forget that God can do anything if we trust him, if we believe, if we act in his will. So I will leave you with that. Again, let me know. I said also, commercial. We'll pause now for a commercial. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. We're getting close to 5,000 subscribers. And for me, that's kind of a personal goal. And it helps me when people subscribe and I see the channel growing, it really encourages me to keep going and keep doing, because I feel like, okay, people are listening. Maybe this is helping. Maybe this is something people need. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And if you have any ideas about anything that you'd like to hear about, anything that you'd like for us to explore, I talked to earlier about the catechism. Um, we're going to talk about the catechism. And I've been very, I've been very negligent. Of course, I've been very sick, but about doing my snippets. But I want to start, recording my snippets again, because I think that this is really healthy. There's 10,000 pages in the Book of the Divine Will. It's like 10,000 pages. Reading it is, you have to take it. You can't read it like a novel. You can't read it like a book. You have to take each bit and absorb it. Father Celso says every question is answered in the writings. And I can tell you it's true. It's absolutely true. Yesterday in my CENACLE, there was a question that came up, and I'm telling you, the next paragraph we read, the question was answered. It was like God knew we were going to have that question at that moment. Go slowly. It's okay. This isn't a race. This isn't, like you get to the goal and you win a prize. This isn't a race. This is changing our minds and our hearts and our souls. We're emptying our souls of all these worldly, earthly things. And God will fill them with his divine will, with heavenly things. This is what he wanted for us all along. So I hope that you will like and subscribe. And I hope that you will leave comments in the comments section and let me know if there's anything that you would like to study or read or talk about. I'm willing to talk about anything. If you're a member, and some of you have joined, and I've been very negligent about offering any of the special perks, but those are coming. And so we're going to have some private Zoom calls. We're going to have some things that will be for members, so that, if there's things, sometimes people are shy about, when it's just everybody, about asking or speaking or whatever. Obviously, if you'd like to join one of my CENACLEs, if you will send me an email, let me once again put up my email. Send me an email. I'll be happy to send you the link. It's free. I don't charge. I've been freely given, but our CENACLEs, they're actually pretty small. which is nice. But I would like to, as many people as want this, as many people as can, because it really does help to study together. It helps me, and I think that it helps the other people in the CENACLE to kind of study together. I have one on Monday evening at 7 o'clock Eastern time, and one on Tuesday morning at 11 o'clock Eastern time. So you'll have to figure out your time zone. I don't know where you are. I'm in Florida, so that's Eastern time. So wherever you're at in the world, you need to figure that out. And we've had people from all over the world attend Australia and New Zealand, all kinds of places attend the CENACLEs. So with that, I will say good night and God bless. And always live in His will. Good night.